Oh my God.
We'll pick up on average almost a ton a day of illegal dumping in Des Moines.
Oh,
Des Moines has a number of areas that are relatively secluded.
okay.
They're not particularly well lit, and the roads are not particularly heavily traveled. And because of the inconvenience and expense, apparently, of dealing with it correctly, we'll have a number of folks who, on a regular basis, will illegally dump in Des Moines. Having one particular site like the one that you've described, apparently in Warren County, we don't have anything that is that regularly used as a single site, but we do have some areas in Des Moines that we, every week, will have to travel. Every week we'll have to go to public expense to be able to clean because of illegal dumping. Somebody wants to get rid of a mattress. Instead of taking it to the landfill, as an example, they'll push off the back of their pickup trucks. It's obviously a crime, not only in the technical sense, but it really is a huge detriment to the community in terms of not only the look, but the expense to be able to clean it up, let alone if they're dealing with something that's toxic or hazardous. We'll have to work with Des Moines Fire and their hazmat unit to do removals from time to time. But illegal dumping is a very real community threat here, not only in Indianola and Des Moines, but certainly throughout the United States, and a very difficult one for us to get our hands around. We will occasionally be able to, through surveillance operations, work to prosecute illegal dumpers. But at the end of the day, in Des Moines, as an example, we have free drop-off events really through the warmer months from about April through November, where if you're a Des Moines resident, you can come to an area like Drake Park, as an example, or St. Anthony's parking lot on a weekend, that we will be there and we'll take things that are too big for you to put on the curbside and for us to pick up through our regular services. But illegal dumping is a huge issue, certainly here in Des Moines and throughout central Iowa, and unfortunately one that goes to the very environmental issues that we're most concerned about. When people put a car battery, as an example, in a ditch, that is an environmental hazard. Kids playing around it, our folks having to clean it up, and certainly every time it rains or every time the water in that ditch comes up, there are hazardous materials from that illegal dumping of a car battery, in my example, that get in the waterways that really do a huge disservice to our community.
All right. Thank you. This is from the Marshalltown Times Republic, the Tuesday, November 23rd issue. The City Council approves $3.34 million sewer project, and the Marshalltown City Council unanimously approved the 2009 sanitary sewer rehabilitation project, which means an overhaul of sewage lines and manholes, all to prevent basement backups of waste during flood events. Though a different project from that of the Water Pollution Control Plant sewer revisions, it all coincides for compliance with Iowa's Clean Water Act, the Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Agency.
Whether it's in Marshalltown or Des Moines, the fundamental issue is taking older infrastructure that may have been built 100 years ago, in the sense of Des Moines and Marshalltown maybe 50 years ago. Pipes corrode, pipes and manholes degrade over time. Like people, infrastructure is a life cycle. The older we get, the more care it takes, the more replacement parts are necessary to keep it functioning in any reasonable sense of the word. We, like Marshalltown, certainly are very involved in rehabilitations of sewer and water systems that are necessary to keep water quality protected within central Iowa, but also, as we talked about before, flood control. You think of, I'll use as an example, the sewer lines in your house going one direction out, and that's the way we want you to think about it. But in high rain events, when the pipes leak beyond your house and fill with rainwater, the possibility or probability that it'll back up into your basement is very real. So these kinds of programs, very expensive and very difficult to be around if you're in a community where streets are being torn out and the pipes are being replaced, are very important for flood protection and for water control protection.
Okay, so I've got another article, and this is from the Des Moines Register. It's actually the Thursday, December 2nd issue. Engineer, quick work saved lives at Lake Delhi. Have you been keeping up with the events at Lake Delhi?
Been following a little bit in the Maquoketa areas. I think most of your viewers remember in July of this year there was a failure of an earthen dam, and largely a recreational community supported that earthen dam and were responsible for it, as opposed to a public kind of dam like Saylorville, as an example, or Red Rock, whatever would be on the federal side or on the public side. The particular article that you mentioned, I just looked at quickly a couple days ago and really went to the quick response of the residents to recognize that there was an emergency, and instead of spending time in their house trying to collect up the pictures of grandma or the hope chest that's in the basement they got out of Dodge, which saved their lives. We're very fortunate in Des Moines to work with the Corps of Engineers, with Polk County Emergency Management, Police and Fire here in Des Moines, Polk County Sheriff, wherever it may be, in flooding situations and situations where there's immediate danger. We have great systems. There's something called Code Red. If your viewers would go to, or just Google Code Red or go to Polk County Emergency Management, there's a Code Red tab that they'll be able to find. Code Red is the process for law enforcement or county or city officials to be able to reach you on a cell phone or whatever in the event of an emergency that would affect your home or your family. And in about a minute, you can go through a process of putting your address in there and putting a contact number and name, all very important. We had a failure at the Birdland levee in 2008, as an example, had overtoppings of our levee systems here in 1993 and 2008, and we're very close to having the same kind of problems in 2010. The ability for us to contact people and say, get out of Dodge, get out of harm's way, is very important. It worked way well in the Lake Delphi situation. No one was hurt or killed. We've had the same kind of great response here in Des Moines, but the technologies like the one we're using right now, obviously very important in being able to provide instant access and an instant warning, as opposed to relying on police or fire or the county sheriff, whatever it may be, to go to your home and pound on the door and try to get you out of it. So very fortunate in eastern Iowa. That's a very difficult situation where the Federal Army Corps of Engineers and the Federal Emergency Management Association, FEMA, has basically said federal money won't be involved in repairing that. At least that was the last determination on that. Tough situation for folks. Recreational use and the kind of use that we have here in Des Moines, where we have businesses and full-time residents who are immediately close to our river system, very important that we be able to reach them and get them out of harm's way in the event that there's an imminent risk.
Okay, thank you. I think that's actually very important information for people to know, and probably if they pay attention, and I'm hoping everyone does, lives will be saved. This is a recent press release from IowaPolitics.com. Governor Culver released it, and apparently there's the task force put together some documents for information, and they're actually going to qualify new public investment on certain conditions, and one of it is unfettered public access to Lake Delhi. Are the residents around that area open to that change in access, or is it?
I can't tell you whether that's the case. Not being terribly familiar with the area that we're talking about in eastern Iowa, that was largely private recreational. I think what the governor's task force has said is, if you want public money, then there should be public access, as opposed to a gated kind of community idea that we want public money to be able to rebuild the infrastructure, but we don't necessarily want to allow the public to be able to enjoy the recreational uses. Seems like a very fair kind of resolution to it. But I think most of us like some level of privacy, as we talked about a little bit earlier in a different context. But I think it's completely appropriate for the Governor's Commission to say, if you want public money, that there has to be a public recreational use and public recreational access associated with that.
Thank you.